Very good afternoon, children. This is L.K. Tripathi, your SST teacher from LPN Public School, Gola Bazar, Gorakhpur. Dear children, as we have been discussing about chapter 4 of history, that is based on the tribal society, tribal community in India. In this sequence, we have to discuss about the new point, that is forest laws and their impact. What was the impact of forest laws over the tribal societies imposed by the British government? This lecture will enable us to know much more about that. So let's discuss it. The life of tribal groups, as you have seen, was directly connected to the forest. So, changes in forest laws had a considerable effect on tribal lives. The British extended their control over all forests and declared that forests were state property. The main thing is that the tribal society manage all their livelihoods, their daily need from the forest. Forest was actually the center of tribals' occupation. It was the place of their livelihood. Many things they gathered from there for their daily need. They collected some herbs, leaves, turpentine oils, all other type of things, and sold. They used to sell all these things in the market, and in return they got spices, mustard oils, grains, and other type of essential things for their daily need. So when British came in power, they stopped collecting all these things from the forest by the tribals. They imposed some strict laws over them, that is known as forest laws. Some forests were classified as reserve forests, for they produced timber which the British wanted. In these forests, people were not allowed to move freely, practice home cultivation, collect fruits, or hunt animals. Means they were banned from all sides. They gathered whatever they used to gather, all these stuffs, even they were not allowed to walk freely in the forest side. How were home cultivators to survive in such a situation? Many were therefore forced to move to other areas in search of work and livelihood. But once the British stopped the tribal people from living inside forest, they faced a problem. From where would the forest department get its labor to cut trees for railway sleepers and to transport logs? Colonial officials came up with a solution. They decided that they would give home cultivators small patches of land in the forest and allow them to cultivate these on the condition that those who lived in villages would have to provide labor to the forest department and look after the forest. So, in many regions, the forest department established forest villages to ensure a regular supply of cheap labor. The search for work. The plight of the tribals who had to go far away from their homes in search of work was even worse. From the late 19th century, tea plantations started coming up and mining became an important industry. Tribals were recruited in large numbers to work the tea plantations of Assam and the coal mines of Jharkhand. They were recruited through contractors who paid them miserably low wages and prevented them from returning home. Now, next that is a closer look. Through the 19th and 20th centuries, tribal groups in different parts of the country rebelled against the changes in law. Just facing such types of law, tribal communities became unsatisfied and angry. As a result, in the beginning of 19th and 20th centuries, the groups of tribal in different parts of the country rebelled, started revolt against the change of law, against the British rule, the restrictions on their practices, the next new taxes they had to pay. जो भी रिस्ट्रिक्शन उनके प्रैक्टिसेस में था, जो उसका यूज़ करते थे फॉरेस्ट गुड्स का, वो नए टैक्स उनको पे करने होते थे. एंड द एक्सप्लॉयटेशन बाय ट्रेडर्स एंड मनी लेंडर्स. ट्रेडर्स और मनी लेंडर्स का जो एक्सप्लॉयटेशन था उसके अगेंस्ट में. द कोल्स रिवेल्ड in 1831 to 32. Santhals rose in revolt in 1855. The Bastar rebellion in central India broke out in 1910. And the Warli revolt in Maharashtra in 1940. The movement that Birsa led was one such movement. Birsa Munda, who was a great rebellion of Jharkhand, who started revolt against the British rule, British exploitation at very high level. As a result, the revolt spread throughout the world, throughout the country, and British administration became uncentralized and disconcentrated, facing such revolt. The Poles rebelled in 1831 to 32. Santhals rose in revolt in 1855. The Bastar rebellion in central India broke out in 1910, and the Warli revolt in Maharashtra in 1940. The movement that Birsa led was one such movement. Birsa Munda was born in the mid 1870s. The son of a poor father, he grew up around the forest of Bohanda grazing sheep, playing the flute and dancing in the local akhada. Forced by poverty, his father had to move from place to place looking for work. As an adolescent, Birsha heard tales of the Munda uprisings, of the fast They talked of a golden age when the Munda had been freed of the oppression of Bhikkhus, and said there would be a time when the ancestral right of the community would be a time when the ancestral right of the community would be restored. They saw themselves as the descendants of the original settlers of the region fighting for their land, reminding people of the need to win back their kingdom. Birsha went to the local missionary school and listened to the sermons of missionaries. There too he heard it said that it was possible for the Mundas to attain the kingdom of heaven and regain their lost rights. This should be possible if they became good Christians and gave up their bad practices. Later, Birsha also spent some time in the company of a prominent Vaishnava teacher. He wore the sacred thread and began to value the importance of purity and piety. Birsha was deeply influenced by many of the ideas he came in touch with in his growing up years. His movement was aimed at reforming tribal society. He urged the Mundas to give up drinking liquor, clean their village, and stop believing in witchcraft and sorcery. But we must remember that Birsha also turned against missionaries and Hindu landlords. He saw them as outside forces that were ruining the Munda way of life. In 1895, Birsha urged his followers to recover their glorious past. He talked of a golden age in the past, a life constructed embankments, tapped natural springs, planted trees and orchard, practiced cultivation to earn their living, They did not kill their brethren and relatives. They lived honestly. Birsa also wanted people to once against work on their land, settle down and cultivate their faith. What worried British officials most was the political aim of the Birsa movement. For it wanted to drive out missionaries, moneylenders, Hindu landlords, and the government and set up a Mundaraj with Birsa at its head. The land policies of the British were destroying their traditional land system. Hindu landlords and moneylenders were taking over their land, and missionaries were criticizing their traditional culture. As the movement spread, the British officials decided to act. They arrested Birsa in 1895, convicted him on charges of rioting and jailed him for 2 years. When Birsa was released in 1897, he began touring the villages to gather support. He used traditional symbols and language to rouse people, urging them to destroy Ravana and establish the kingdom under his leadership. Next we shall discuss in the next video. Till then, goodbye.